My name is Siti Nurasha Najah.
My name is Nur Zulaikha binti Majdi.
My name is Nur Harani binti Harun.
My name is Wano Rebetume Salabit.
Before I start, let me introduce a little bit about Mexico. Mexico doesn't have an official language. While most Mexicans speak Spanish, there are 68 recognized languages in the country, but mostly indigenous. 4 of these are language isolates or languages that don't relate to any other language. Inflation is defined as an increase in average prices throughout the economy. It indicates that money is losing the valuation. Inflation normally occurs as the country's economy grows. In other words, people wages will remain constant, but the general price level, which is GPL, will rise over time. While unemployment can be defined as a circumstance in which a person is actively looking for work but is incapable to find a full-time job. Unemployment occurs as a result of the country's inefficient utilization of all existing resources, which resulted in waste and less production. So it leads to fewer jobs available and cause the lower income generated within the country.
Hey, let's know more about Mexico. Mexico is a country of the south of North America and the third largest country in the Latin America after Brazil and Argentina. As you can see in the graph, the Mexican population is grew from 2019 to 2020. The total population of Mexico is 128.9 billion person. As I said before, Mexico is one of the largest countries in the world, so they can make a good number in the national income. Why I say that? Because year by year, the national incomes of Mexico is increased. Gross national income US dollar of Mexico increased from 1.128 million USD in 2017 to 1.225 million USD in 2019, growing up at average annual rates of 4.18%. In your opinion, what is the main sector contributor that can make the national incomes of Mexico is increased? The answer is service sector. In Statista 2019, agriculture contribute around 3.47% to the GDPs of Mexico. 31.50% come from industry and 60.51% come from service sector. This service sector include trade, finance, transport, communication, tourism, health, and education. Lastly, the national debt. Because of the Mexico is one of the largest country in the world, so they need to face the large amounts in the national debt. In 2020, the national debts of Mexico amount to around 709.17 million USD has increased from 2019. This amount means that the debts of Mexico in 2020 reached 60.59% of Mexico GDP. This makes the positions of Mexico as compared with the rest of the world has worsened in 2020 in terms of GDP percentage. That's all from me. Let's move to the main discussion.
The highest rate of inflation in 15 years from 2005 until 2019 is 2017, led by a higher food and energy cost that hit the weakness of the peso and the end of control over gasoline and other fuels. Next, the actual government policy. The Ministry of Finance liberalized gasoline costs to move away from the normal government-determined valuation mechanism, which can be determined by the market pricing system. The method began with petrol will increase of 14% and 20%. Resultive till February 2017, once a 2-month increase happens until domestic values correspond to international ones, although the government objective is to cut back the impact of energy price subsidies to support liberation within the energy sector to extend investment, but the effect of price increases is negative for citizens.
The highest rate of unemployment in 15 years from 2005 until 2019 is 2009 according to the World Bank data. The rate has reported it is 5.36%. First of all, back in 2009, there was a flu outbreak which is called H1N1 crossing around the Mexico. Only about 58% of the country's economically active population, which is EAP, was employed. For the policy of H1N1 problem, the Secretariat de Hacienda y Crédito Público or SHCP has provided approximately 27 billion pesos to react to the flu epidemic. A total of 10 billion pesos had been spent on programs to combat the outbreak of the influenza in Mexico. Agriculture jobs increased by more than 250,000. This increase in jobs indicates a temporary return to farming operation as a survival policy. Next, in 2009 was the economic crisis that hit worldwide including Mexico. This problem gave a significant effect on Mexicans, especially to the one who lives in suburban areas. The policy of this problem, which are for employees who are unemployed or stay in suburban areas affected by low employment or who have been struck by natural catastrophe or some kind of emergency, the Ministry of Social Development or SEDESOL operates a temporary employment programs or Programa de Empleo Temporal, which is PET. The initiative provides funding for programs that hire local employees aged 16 and above in activities such as preservation of cultural heritage sites, health promotion, construction of public infrastructure, protection from natural disaster, conservation of biodiversity, and supporting local development. Expanding its coverage to urban areas where unemployment rates have increased following the global financial crisis. In addition to deal with the situation, the Mexican government established a measure which is the National Agreement to Support the Household Economy and Employment, which is Ampliación del Programa de Empleo Temporal a Nivel Federal, which is NFIFI. Additional loan from a development bank was projected to boost overall investment to almost 171,000 million pesos. Employment programs are seen as an acceptable strategy for coping with labor market cyclical downturns. They provide economic support to persons who have lost their occupations and given their self-targeting mechanism.
The next point is the impact of coronavirus pandemic on inflation and unemployment of the country. Due to pandemic of coronavirus, many countries have faced vital problems, especially for their inflation and unemployment. As you can see from the graph of inflation in Mexico during coronavirus, in April 2021, Mexico's volume of inflation has reached 6.08%, known as the highest since December 2017, and slightly above the market expectations, which is 6.01%. This is because since coronavirus has started, most of the citizens in Mexico are being a panic buyers who buys everything without thinking their money budget and other people's need, occurring the inflation in Mexico. Compared to the second month pandemic of coronavirus in May 2020, which shows as the lowest inflation rate since December 2015. Therefore, the second month of coronavirus pandemic does not have much impact in Mexico's inflation. Other than that, the graph of unemployment in Mexico during coronavirus also shows some slightly increase. This is because since pandemic of coronavirus has started, the numbers of unemployment has climbed up to 5.5% in June 2020, 3 months after coronavirus appeared. Throughout coronavirus, most employees has loses their source of income and could not cover up their cost living. with the sudden news that happens every single day due to coronavirus. The pandemic of coronavirus has a negative impact on Mexico's economy and leaves people unemployed and only relies on government.
The government has provided stimulus package to address the issue caused by the COVID-19 epidemic. The president terminated non-strategic federal public trust and focused these resources to prevent health and economic emergencies. Mexico did issue a 6 billion bonds in late April, one of the country's biggest at an average rate of 4.0125%. This will aid in the consolidation of the government financial stock and the operation initiatives in response to the COVID-19 crisis. Mexico investment grade credit rating might be lost next year since governmental debt is forecast to exceed 60% of GDP. The Bank of Mexico predicted that the epidemic would increase impoverishment by at least 9 million Mexicans. Since the coronavirus hit Mexico, the Mexico national debt keeps increasing. President Lopez Obrador said in May that a 1 billion loan from the World Bank was a regular procedure approved last year. In terms of GDP percent, Mexico's standing in the comparison of the rest of the world has deteriorated in 2020. In conclusion, Mexico managed to solve the economic problem and know how to act perfectly. Inflation in Mexico accelerated to its highest level in 70 years in 2017, led by higher food and energy costs. The consumer price index rose 0.59% in December, bringing the annual inflation rate to 6.77%. That's all.